I wake up in a dimly lit hotel room. My body aches, my clothes are slightly disheveled, and a deep sense of fear runs through me. My breath is unsteady, my pulse hammering against my ribs. I reach for my phone with trembling fingers, but before I can grab it, a voice slices through the silence. "Where do you think you are going?" A cold shiver races down my spine. My stomach twists violently. He is still here. I have always believed that the world rewards hard work. I have spent years proving myself in a male-dominated corporate world, pushing beyond limits, making sacrifices, and staying professional no matter what. But nothing in my life prepared me for this night. The night when everything I thought I knew shattered into something dark, something twisted, something I wish I could erase. Ethan Carter had always been one of the most respected figures in the company. At 45, he carried an aura of power, charm, and authority that made people naturally gravitate toward him. He was never loud or overbearing. He was the kind of man who could command a room with just a look. To everyone, he was a mentor, a leader, a man of his word. And I was just another employee trying to build a career, trying to earn a seat at the table. It started innocently. A casual remark in the hallway. "You have been doing impressive work, truly. I see potential in you," he had said, his voice smooth, almost fatherly. "I have been thinking about taking you under my wing. You deserve better opportunities." I smiled, grateful. Who would not want a chance to grow, to be recognized? I had never seen anything predatory in his eyes, never felt unsafe around him. That was the trick, was it not? Monsters do not always show their teeth. So when he asked me to join him for an important business dinner, I did not immediately sense danger. "We need to discuss a potential promotion," he had said over coffee that afternoon. "There is a client I want you to meet. It will be good for your career." It sounded like a privilege. A one-on-one meeting with my boss, a step towards something bigger. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered, "Something is off." I hesitated. "A hotel meeting?" "It is common in our field. Private, quiet, no distractions." He smiled, setting his cup down. "You trust me, do you not?" I did. And that is where I made my first mistake. The hotel was extravagant. A 5-star business hub with golden chandeliers, sleek marble floors, and staff who moved like shadows, silent and efficient. I stepped inside, my heels clicking softly against the polished surface, my heartbeat strangely fast. I told myself it was excitement. Ethan was already there, waiting near the entrance in his tailored suit, his face lighting up as he saw me. "There she is," he said warmly, as if I were an old friend rather than his subordinate. "Come. Let us not keep our client waiting." I followed him down the corridor, my fingers gripping my purse tighter than usual. I expected to enter a conference hall or a reserved dining area. Instead, he led me toward the private suites. I stopped. "Wait, are we not meeting someone?" He turned, his smile patient but unreadable. "Change of plans. The client canceled, but I still want to go over a few things with you. Trust me, this will be worth your time." The warning bells inside me grew louder. I glanced around, seeing no familiar faces, no escape routes that did not seem rude or unprofessional. He swiped the keycard and pushed open the door to suite 1409. "This way." I hesitated. He stepped aside, gesturing. "Come in. Let us not stand in the hallway like strangers." I stepped inside and the door clicked shut behind me. The room was elegant, far too elegant for a business discussion. A large bed with pristine white sheets, dim golden lighting, and a bottle of wine resting in an ice bucket near the table. It was too intimate, too deliberate. A strange tension hung in the air, something unspoken but heavy. I turned to face him, my stomach knotting. "This does not feel right." His smile was still there, but something about it had changed. "Relax," he said smoothly, walking toward the small bar in the corner. "Have a drink. You seem tense." "I do not drink." My voice was steady, but my hands had started trembling. I took a step back toward the door, gripping the handle. Locked. Panic flickered in my chest. He noticed. "You are acting strange," he murmured, pouring himself a glass of red wine. "We are just talking. Why are you nervous?" My mouth was dry. Every instinct screamed run. But where? The door was locked. The room was soundproof. And he? He was between me and my escape. "You are too serious all the time," he continued, swirling his glass. "That is why I wanted to have this private talk. You work hard, but there is something you lack, something only experience can teach." "I think I should go," I forced out, keeping my voice polite. He sighed, setting the glass down. Then, without warning, he stepped closer, too close. I backed away. His fingers brushed my wrist, a deliberate touch. "Do not be afraid," he said, his voice lower, slower. "I have been meaning to get to know you better." My blood turned ice cold. This was no misunderstanding. This was planned. I yanked my arm away, my breath sharp. "I really need to leave." But he did not move. Instead, he exhaled, as if my reaction amused him. "You are making this difficult," he muttered. Then, so softly it sent chills down my spine, he added, "Do not make me force you." My heartbeat was so loud I could barely hear my own thoughts. He stepped forward again, and this time I had nowhere left to go. I was trapped, in this hotel, in this room, with a man who had never been who I thought he was. His hand grazed my shoulder, and for the first time in my life, I felt what true fear was. I screamed. He moved fast, too fast. One hand over my mouth, the other gripping my wrist so hard I gasped in pain. "Shh," he whispered against my ear. "No one will hear you." Tears blurred my vision. My mind was racing, trying to find a way out. I tried to kick him, push him away, but he was stronger, so much stronger. I had made a mistake, a terrible, irreversible mistake. And now, I was at his mercy. The room suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in, the air thick with something suffocating. I could hear the dull hum of the city outside, but in here, inside Suite 1409, the world had changed. My breath felt uneven, my heart hammering inside my chest as I stared at the locked door, calculating, measuring, searching for a way out. But he was already watching me, studying me the way a predator does when its prey starts sensing the trap. Ethan took a slow sip of his wine, his gaze unwavering. He was no longer the polished, well-spoken boss I had admired. The mask had slipped, revealing something darker, something I had never seen before. "You are acting nervous," he mused, swirling his glass as he leaned against the table. "Why? Do you not trust me?" His voice was calm, controlled, too controlled. My instinct screamed at me to lie, to play along, to keep my voice steady. "I do trust you," I forced out, my throat dry. "But I just remembered I have something urgent to take care of. I should probably—" Before I could finish, he cut me off with a chuckle. A slow, deliberate one. The kind that made my stomach twist. "You work too hard," he said, pushing away from the table and taking a step toward me. "That is why I brought you here. You deserve to relax." I took a step back. He took another step forward. "You know, I have been watching you for a long time," he continued, his tone lower now, more intimate. "The way you carry yourself, the way you try so hard to prove yourself, it is intriguing." My fingers curled into fists. The weight of his words made my skin crawl. "I think I should go," I said, trying to sound firm. But he just smiled, tilting his head slightly. "Go where?" He was now between me and the door. I felt the blood drain from my face. My pulse was so loud it drowned out the sound of the city, the faint voices in the hallway, the quiet music playing from the hotel speakers. It was just me and him now, and I was trapped. "You are making this awkward," he muttered, setting his glass down. "I invited you here because I wanted to talk. I wanted to help you." He stepped closer and I flinched. He noticed, and he liked it. "Do not be scared," he murmured, reaching for my wrist. His fingers were warm, firm, possessive. "I have always been good to you, have I not?" I yanked my arm back, panic flaring in my chest. "Please, Ethan, I just want to leave." His eyes darkened, his patience wearing thin. "I have been too nice to you." His smile faded, replaced by something cruel, something dangerous. "Now it is time for you to return the favor." A sharp, sickening chill ran through my body. I took another step back, my back now pressed against the dresser. I was out of space. He reached for me again. This time, I screamed, but the walls of the hotel absorbed my cries. My scream barely left my lips before his hand was over my mouth. My body stiffened as his fingers dug into my skin, silencing me, controlling me. "Shh," he whispered, his breath warm against my cheek. "You are overreacting. No one is going to hear you. No one is going to come." I struggled, thrashing, my hands pushing against his chest, but he was too strong. "Do not fight me," he muttered, his grip tightening. "You are only making this worse for yourself." Tears blurred my vision as I kicked him, hard. He stumbled back just enough for me to twist out of his grasp. My breath came in sharp, panicked gasps as I darted toward the door. I pulled at the handle. It would not budge. Behind me, I heard his slow, amused laughter. "You think I did not plan for this?" he said, straightening his shirt. "You think you can just walk out of here?" I spun around, my entire body shaking. "Please, just let me go." His expression turned cold. "No." I felt my body tense as he started walking toward me again. There was nowhere to go. I had no options left. "Listen," I tried to reason with him, my voice barely steady. "You do not want to do this. You will regret it." His lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. "No, I will not." I felt sick. This was real. And then, he lunged. I dodged at the last second, grabbing the first thing I could get my hands on, the wine bottle from the table. I swung it with everything I had, glass shattered against his shoulder. He grunted in pain, stumbling back, but it was not enough. Not nearly enough. "You little—" He grabbed me again, slamming me against the wall. The impact knocked the air out of my lungs. Pain exploded through my side. I gasped, my vision swimming, but I could not stop. I had to fight. I threw my elbow into his ribs, struggling, clawing, desperate to get away. "Enough!" he roared, gripping my face, forcing me to look at him. His fingers pressed into my skin, his eyes wild. "You need to understand something. You are mine tonight. No one is coming for you." Terror, unlike anything I had ever felt before, rushed through my veins. I bit down on his hand, hard. He yelled, jerking back, and I took my chance. I lunged for his phone on the table. My fingers just barely grazed it before he tackled me to the floor. The hard carpet burned against my skin as he pinned me down, breathing hard. That was a mistake. I thrashed, using every ounce of strength left in me. My knee connected with his side, and for a split second, his grip loosened. I rolled away, scrambling toward the nightstand. There, a hotel phone. I grabbed it, fingers shaking as I pressed 911. But before I could speak, Ethan's hand slammed down on mine, ripping the phone away. He threw it across the room, breathing heavily. "You really do not know when to quit, do you?" I stared up at him, my chest heaving. I could barely breathe, barely think. My whole body was trembling. I had failed. His expression softened, almost gentle. "I will give you one last chance." He leaned down, whispering, "Stop fighting, and I will go easy on you." Something in me snapped. I looked him dead in the eyes and whispered, "Go to hell." His eyes flashed with rage. And then he lunged at me again. Pain. That was the first thing I felt when I regained consciousness. A deep, throbbing ache in my limbs, my ribs screaming in protest as I tried to move. The carpet beneath me felt rough against my cheek, and the dim lighting cast eerie shadows on the ceiling. For a moment, my mind was blank, lost in a fog of pain and confusion. Then, Everything came back at once. Ethan, the hotel room, the attack, his hands on me, my failed attempt to call for help. My body tensed as fear came rushing back, sharp and suffocating. My breath hitched as I slowly, carefully turned my head. He was still here, sitting in the chair near the bed, his legs casually crossed, his phone in his hand, scrolling like nothing had happened, as if he had not just slammed me to the ground, as if he had not just overpowered me. He looked bored. A sickening wave of nausea rolled through me. I was trapped. The reality of it hit me like a brick wall. The door was still locked. The phone was across the room, broken. My only way out was through him. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat, my mind racing. I had to think. I had to do something, anything. I forced my body to remain still even as every instinct screamed at me to run, to fight, to do something. But not yet. Not while he was watching. I needed him to let his guard down. Slowly, I let out a weak, shaky breath. Ethan. My voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. His head lifted slightly, but he did not look up from his phone. I hesitated, forcing tears into my voice. I had to make this believable. I am sorry, I murmured, my voice trembling just enough to sound real. I should not have fought you. I panicked. That got his attention. His eyes lifted from his screen, scanning me like a hunter deciding whether his prey was truly defenseless. I swallowed hard, shifting slightly, pretending to wince as if I were too weak to move properly. I was just scared. I did not understand. But I do now. He watched me in silence, his expression unreadable. I forced myself to hold his gaze, to soften my face, to make him believe that I had given up. Please, I whispered, lowering my eyes just enough to seem submissive. I will not fight anymore. For a long, agonizing moment, he just stared at me. Then, he smirked. That is more like it, he muttered, standing up. He stretched lazily, rolling his shoulders as if none of this had been serious to him. Like this was just a game he thought he had already won. I stayed still, watching from beneath my lashes as he walked toward the small bar in the room, pouring himself another drink. His back was turned. This was it. Every muscle in my body coiled, my heart pounding so loudly I was, afraid he would hear it. I had one shot. I moved fast. My eyes locked onto the heavy glass wine bottle sitting on the table. I lunged. My fingers closed around the neck of the bottle, and without thinking, without hesitating, I swung it with all my strength. Crash. The bottle shattered against the side of his head. A sharp, guttural curse tore from his lips as he stumbled, the glass slicing into his skin. Blood dripped down his temple, his eyes wild with shock and rage. I did not wait to see if he would recover. I snatched his keycard off the table and ran. My pulse pounded in my ears as I sprinted to the door, my hands shaking so badly I fumbled with the keycard. Behind me, I heard the sickening sound of him regaining his balance. "You bitch!" he roared, staggering toward me. I swiped the keycard. The lock beeped. The door clicked open. Just as I yanked it wide, a hand closed around my wrist. A sharp scream ripped from my throat as he pulled me back, his grip iron tight. "Where do you think you are going?" His voice was low, dangerous, laced with fury. "You think you can just walk out?" I twisted, kicked, fought with everything I had left. His nails dug into my skin, bruising, burning. I did the only thing I could. I swung my elbow back as hard as I could, catching him square in the ribs. His grip loosened. I tore free, bursting into the hallway, gasping for air. But I could hear him behind me, chasing me. I ran, ignoring the burn in my lungs, the ache in my side. The hallway stretched endlessly before me, lined with closed doors. But no people. No one was here to help me. I had to reach the elevator. I rounded the corner and saw it. Gleaming silver doors, a single red down arrow blinking. I slammed my palm against the button, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Behind me, Ethan's footsteps pounded against the floor. "Get back here," he shouted, his voice furious. The elevator doors stayed closed. I hit the button again. Come on, come on. A movement. I turned just in time to see him lunge. I ducked. His arms swiped through empty air, his momentum carrying him forward. He slammed into the wall. A sharp grunt left his lips, but he recovered quickly, his face twisted in fury. "I am going to make you regret this," he snarled. A soft ding. The elevator opened. I threw myself inside, hitting the close door button frantically. He rushed forward. Too late. The doors slid shut between us. For a single, horrifying second, our eyes met through the gap. His face was smeared with blood, his breathing heavy, but the look in his eyes sent a fresh wave of terror through me. He was smiling, not an expression of defeat, not anger, a promise. This is not over. The doors clicked shut, the elevator descended, and I collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. I was free, but for how long? The elevator hummed as it descended, the soft, mechanical whir the only sound breaking through the deafening silence inside. My entire body trembled, my lungs burning with each desperate breath. My hands clutched the sides of the elevator, my knuckles white. My vision blurred, but I forced myself to stay upright. I was free. But was I really? Ethan's last expression, his smirk smeared with blood, his eyes burning with an unspoken promise, was burned into my mind. He had not looked angry. He had looked entertained, as if this was just a game, as if he was not done with me yet. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block out the memory, but the events of the night clawed their way back in, the suffocating grip, the fear, the sound of my own screams swallowed by the walls. I choked on a sob, my body shaking so violently I felt like I might collapse. The elevator dinged, the doors slid open, and the moment I stepped out, all the noise of the real world came crashing in. The hotel lobby was a stark contrast to the nightmare I had just escaped. It was bright, golden chandeliers glowing warmly above polished floors. Couples laughed over glasses of wine in the lounge, guests chatted casually at the front desk, oblivious to the horrors that had unfolded just floors above them. But I could not focus on any of it. I staggered forward, nearly falling, my breath coming in shallow gasps. My clothes were disheveled, my wrist raw and bruised from where Ethan had grabbed me. Every inch of my body ached. I felt eyes turn toward me. A receptionist at the front desk, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes, frowned slightly as she noticed me. "Miss? Are you all right?" I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. I swallowed hard and forced the words out. "Help!" I gasped. "Please, call security, now!" Panic flashed across the woman's face, and she immediately grabbed the phone. "What happened?" she asked urgently. I turned, my gaze darting toward the elevator, my heart hammering. Would he follow me? Was he coming down? My voice trembled. "My boss, Ethan Carter, he—" My throat closed up. My pulse pounded in my ears. I struggled to breathe, my body shutting down, under the weight of the trauma. The receptionist's eyes widened. Oh my God! I could barely process what happened next. The moment I uttered his name, the entire energy in the room shifted. A man in a suit, hotel security, was suddenly by my side, his expression grim. "Miss, please come with me." Another security guard rushed toward the elevator. Someone spoke into a radio. Guests had stopped talking. I could feel their eyes on me, their curiosity, their confusion. I felt like I was suffocating. I wanted to scream. I wanted to disappear. "Miss, sit down," the security officer urged, guiding me toward a chair near the front desk. "Take deep breaths. The police are on their way." Police. For the first time, a flicker of relief washed over me. I nodded weakly, trying to slow my breathing. My fingers still trembled as I gripped the armrest, my nails digging into the fabric. My entire body felt foreign, like it did not belong to me anymore. Then, a voice behind me. What is going on here? Every muscle in my body froze. I turned my head, my stomach twisting into knots. Ethan. He stood at the entrance of the elevator, his posture relaxed, his suit slightly wrinkled from our struggle. But what made my blood run cold was his expression. Calm, unbothered, smirking, as if he was simply watching all of this unfold like a spectator. The receptionist gasped softly, her hand covering her mouth. The security guard beside me stepped forward immediately, blocking me from view. "Ethan Carter?" the officer asked, his voice firm. Ethan's gaze flicked to him. He raised an eyebrow, then let out a slow, exasperated sigh. "Ah, I see what this is." He straightened his jacket, shaking his head. "My employee had a little too much to drink tonight," he said smoothly. "She got overwhelmed. I was just trying to help her." My head snapped up. "What?" I felt rage surge through me, so sharp and sudden it nearly drowned out the fear. "You are lying," I spat, my voice raw. "You locked me in that room. You—" Ethan turned his eyes on me. For the first time since I had escaped, I saw something cold flash behind them, a warning, a threat. The security officer beside me stiffened. "Sir, step aside. The police will be questioning both of you." Ethan sighed again, his lips curving into a slow, knowing smirk. "Of course," he said easily. "I am happy to cooperate." Minutes passed like hours. The police arrived. They asked me questions. My voice trembled as I told them everything. Everything. I showed them my bruised wrists. The security cameras confirmed that I had run out of that elevator alone, panicked, terrified. Ethan was questioned separately, his voice eerily smooth as he spoke to the officers. Then, finally, "We are taking him in for questioning," one of the officers said, gripping Ethan's arm as they pulled out their handcuffs. For the first time that night, I let out a shaky breath. But then, Ethan turned his head, his eyes locking onto mine. He smiled, a slow, controlled, chilling smile. And then, as they dragged him away, he leaned in just slightly, just enough for me to hear. "This is not over." A cold shiver ran down my spine. I sat in the back of an ambulance, a warm blanket draped over my shoulders. My hands still trembled as I clutched a cup of water, my throat too raw to drink. I should have felt safe. I should have felt free. But all I could hear were his last words, echoing in my head, taunting me. This is not over. The police had taken him. But for how long? Would he get out? Would he come back? Would he find me? I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to shut out the thoughts. But they did not leave me. Because deep down, I knew the truth. This was not the end. It was just the beginning.